Okay there, good evening and hello to everyone who is watching a video on demand after all of this has been recorded. Feel free to skip like 15 minutes from now because the actual class starts in 15 minutes and in between we are going to be chatting a little bit, right? So let's go back to the chat, right, and see what's up. So MK00 has managed to join the live stream. Also, Uncle Bonehead, good evening and good day and good morning to someone said good morning, but yeah, Wilson, right? I forgot what the WP means, but if I remember correctly, it was Wilson. So yeah, sometimes I remember things, sometimes I don't. Why is my YouTube studio not showing any viewers? I'm pretty sure there are some of you in the stream, and it's telling me that I have 0, which is maybe incorrect. Let's try to refresh all of this. Refresh. What does it say now? Oh, now it says 7. Okay, refresh it is. Good. Dell Anderson, hello. Yeah, Dell Anderson, I wanted to show you something now that we are at this. Let me just quickly switch to the other window and video. Let's play something from yesterday without the sound. So there was something bandwidth related. I'm talking to Dell Anderson now. There was something bandwidth related, but I'm not sure if they removed it from this version of PeerTube or not. It's not in the video settings, maybe here. Application. Let's actually let's go ahead like we're not logged in. Because this is my account. New window in private. Okay, so let's open this in private and close this one, and we are now a guest on this site. Let's play this. Settings. No, it's not here. More info, was it? There is nothing to set up here. What was that? 2000 views. Okay. PeerTube. These are some links. There was some settings regarding the bandwidth that you have asked me. However, it doesn't appear to be here anymore. Like if I click here, it will take me to another website. Well, I guess they removed it. The thing is, you used to be able to choose if you want to share your bandwidth, right? That's for nerds. This is not important. Play loop, copy URL, copy stat. No, nothing. Peer. Can I click the peer? No. Here maybe. What is this? Volume? I'm sorry. There was one option, I am 100% sure, which was like turn off peer-to-peer modes, like do not participate in sharing this video. Oh, is it here? Help share videos being played. The sharing system implies that some technical information about your system can be sent to other players. So you disable this button here, and I think it will no longer use your computer or your bandwidth to share this video with anyone. However, this only happens while you are watching, right? When you stop watching, then you're no longer participating in this. So my videos are not very popular, especially on PeerTube. So from the PeerTube perspective, a very, very small chance is that you will watch one of my videos at the same time when someone else is watching. So from that perspective, you can go ahead and disable this. But if you don't, I don't think that you will be participating in any of that, right? So that's what I told. That's what I wanted to tell you, just nothing else, right? Let me just go back to the chat. Where was I? Zoran says hi. Zoran says hi again. Hit that like button. Okay, very nice, very nice. Thank you. Hit hi all Vladimir and another hey. And what's up, guys? Any girls in chat? Just want to be sure that I'm not being disrespectful to another sex. In the meantime, I'm just gonna say, guys. But yeah, what's up? How have your morning been, and your day, and your evening? Right? I already did one video yesterday, as I promised, like a channel update per month. So that was nice. And today I felt like I want to do yet another one. So I did a quick OpenBSD install because I already have some practice with it. I installed it a couple of times, solved some problems with my laptop and with OpenBSD. And yeah, I think Vladimir may be interested in that one, how it turned out, OpenBSD install on my ThinkPad, right? That was kind of that's kind of fun to do. I'm still unsure if I will use or not OpenBSD as my server because I am actually considering pulling my Mastodon instance from the hosting, which costs me quite a lot of money per month. And I don't really use it all that much. However, there are a lot of other users on my instance. Basically, that's my fault, right? But I wanted to have this community, and I have to respect their decision to go to my instance. So, in order to avoid too many expenses per month, I'm probably going to move that on my own server. And in order to do that, I might need Linux simply because I have a lot more experience, right? So running OpenBSD without any experience as a server may be slightly bad idea from the pure administrative and security perspective, right? Also, I was thinking about running my own Matrix server also locally, so that's going to be fun as an experiment. And also my web server. Okay, that part is easy. And some other software, right? We have 8 more minutes for chatting. What's up, guys? What can you tell me about Sunday? How has Sunday been taking care of you? That's not exactly the order of words that I was heading for, but when I don't have too much time to prepare a sentence when you're doing it live, then English is what it is, right? Just a guy asks one word, Portainer. I have no clue what Portainer is. You will have to explain it to me. Vladimir says, thanks, great. I was busy figuring who was the first to use F keys, and looks like it was HP and not IBM, but I'm still digging. How is your day went, folks? Zoran asks, open ports on your firewall, or are you making a DMZ? Well, Zoran, I have, first of all, I have a dynamic IP address. My internet service provider is changing my IP every now and then. I have no clue what the cadence is, but what I do is right now I have my PeerTube in my home, and it is behind my router, and I have port 443 open, for the HTTPS service, right? For my website, for my PeerTube website, right? And I have just opened this one port. It's not in DMZ currently. However, it is behind the reverse proxy from Cloudflare because it offers an extra layer of protection for me. And also it is always the same IP address to you as a viewer. However, when my IP address changes, then my dynamic DNS will update, and it takes a couple of minutes for Cloudflare to realize what my new IP is. And during this few minutes, my PeerTube website will be down, but that's no big deal. Usually, so that's how it works now. However, the new server that I'm planning to create will be slightly more powerful than the current one where my PeerTube is, which is Raspberry Pi. And that one I will not put it in a DMZ, depending on what you consider to be a DMZ, right? Usually people, when they say DMZ, they mean like all ports forwarded to one machine, and the rest of the machines from the network simply have the outbound connection via network address translation. But what I am planning to do is, like, my router has 4 ports, or maybe 5. I think it's 4 internal ones. So I'm planning to use one port as a separate subnet just for this one server. So I will port forward only the ports that I need to this server, and all of the rest of my local network, like my home, will be on the rest of the switch ports, but in a different subnet. And on the router itself, I will not make the routing possibility that, let's say, if anyone manages to break into my server for any reason whatsoever, my router will not allow it to for these people to move from my server to my local network. Okay, so my personal computer will be completely separate. Still the same IP address from the public facing side, but you will not be able to go from one network to another. So that part is the easiest thing that I can do to protect my home network. However, I need to think of how I will handle backup, right? So maybe my backup machine will be in a third network or something. I still need to think about it thoroughly, right? Zoran says, regarding your server at home solution. Yeah, that's what I meant, right? And just a guy, never use DMZ when self-hosting. Just a guy, if you mean by forwarding all of the ports, then yes, I agree with you. I only forward the ports that are actually required and add yet another firewall on the server itself. And also I can do another reverse proxy in between the actual server and the reverse proxy one. So I can make it multiple hops for the potential intruder to have challenges with, right? I can make it more difficult for him to reach the end target that is hosting the actual data. Dale Anderson says, sure wish there was a way to connect to the internet directly. Thanks, internet service provider. I have no clue what you mean by that, Dale Anderson. Vasserlas, did I read it right? Vasserla. Sorry, that's Vasrias. Sorry, the letters are too small. I actually wear glasses usually, but not right now. How does registration on PeerTube work? On Tuxedo TV, it says currently this instance does not allow for user registration. Well, yes, that's a complex topic. You need to have either an account on any of the PeerTube servers, and many of them do accept registration. And then from any instance, you can follow my channel on your account. So you have two servers. Mine does not accept registration. Some other server accepts registrations. Let me just show it to you quickly because we should start learning. Join PeerTube. Join PeerTube. You go to join PeerTube. What is PeerTube? What is PeerTube? Videos, platforms, discover, donate. Well, browse content, publish videos, create my account on an existing PeerTube platform, find a PeerTube platform. Okay, so this is where you filter out all of the platforms, right? So let's say that you are into science, okay? So I don't know, media, birth media, it says, I think all of them accept registrations. Let's go to random one. I don't know. Let's go to random one and my settings, login, and this instance currently does not allow. Okay, that's PeerTube, blah, blah. Okay, let's go to blah, blah. And we're going to log in, and logging in lets you publish content. Okay, let's say this one allows you to make an account. I will not spend too much time on researching which one allows you. So for example, you make an account, and once you log in, then you can go ahead you can basically copy paste the link to my channel, which is on Tuxedo TV. That's my site. And just copy paste it to your search in your own PeerTube, and you just click follow, and from that instance you follow mine on my instance, right? It works exactly the same as Mastodon does, if you know how Mastodon works. Also, if you have a Mastodon account, you can actually follow my PeerTube instance from your Mastodon account. So it will show up, new videos will show up in your Mastodon feed, but the user experience is not that good when you follow from the Mastodon account, because my videos will show up as a post, and the PeerTube interface is like let me just show it to you quickly. Tuxedo TV. So when you're in a PeerTube interface, this is my account, right? When I go to subscriptions, this is where I'm subscribed to all the various PeerTube accounts, right? For example, Veronica Explains. I'm following her content, and I can see that she has posted 2 days ago. And when I click on this video, I will just press pause on this for a second, so that you can see that she is hosted by the account vkc@tinkerbetter.tube. So tinkerbetter.tube is her instance, but I'm watching from my own instance, and I can click like, and she will see that someone from my instance has liked it, and I can reply here, and all of these, my reply will show up as all of the other replies. So you can see that some guy is replying from expressionssocial.social, this one is replying from video.org, and this one is replying from makertube.net. So these are all of the different instances in the grand Fediverse that are replying to her content, right? And the reason why I'm not allowing registrations is because I don't have time to moderate content. Not content. You guys, if you make an account on my instance, you will most certainly leave some comments on other people's videos. And if someone of you makes spammy content, a spammy reply to somewhere, then that someone will report your account to me because you are hosted on my server, and I'm responsible for what you are posting all over the world, and I will need to deal with this. So I certainly don't want to allow random registrations from random people, because I really don't have time for random people. Regarding you guys who are actually watching my stuff, and most of you I know at least by name or something, by nickname. If you will be that much interested in having an account on my instance, from which you will be able to follow my content and all of the other PeerTube video creators, maybe we can work out something that I can manually allow each one of you to register. I just don't want to enable public registrations. That is for sure. Manual approval, maybe yes, but if you are interested in that, please, I don't know, write me an email or remind me in YouTube comments or somewhere, because after this stream starts, I'm going to forget about this topic for sure, because I'm a bit forgetful. So if any one of you is interested in having an account on my PeerTube server, go ahead and send me an email with I am interested or something like that, so I can just take notes of who or how many of you want to have an account on my instance, instead of some other random PeerTube server which already allows random users to register. So I guess that's it. Let me just catch up with chat and we can start. Okay, backup to cloud. Zoran asks, yes, I can backup to cloud. That is an option. I can encrypt my backup and then upload to cloud. That's correct. That was one of my thinkings already. Okay. Is there a recommended PeerTube server to register? Yes, I will recommend you one that is very popular and also very good if you need an account right now. So this is Tilvids. Okay, Tilvids, shortened for Today I Learned videos. So at this place, you will find a lot of Linux creators, literally on this server. Also, I have an account on this server, but I stopped uploading here when I made my own. Instance, right? So tilvids.com, make an account there. You will have to get an approval from them. I think on their matrix room you have to ask for them to approve you. So they are also semi-manual. But just as well, we can have a deal that I can put you on my instance. But yeah, let's not waste too much time. Let me just catch up with the rest of the chat. Connect directly to the internet without potential censorship of ISP like ISP itself does. I know it's complicated bandwidth data balancing. Del Anderson, let's leave this topic for after the class, because we are late already and I have a lot more to talk about this topic. Zoran says running Pi-hole here and love it. Well, yeah. Pi-hole is pretty much a fantastic thing to have, right? So I have one as well, and as you can see in the what is this list of blocked queries, 7,000 blocked queries in the past. I have no idea what the timeline is for this. In the last 24 hours, okay, in the last 24 hours, 7,000 blocked queries, because PeerTube is taking care of me. Not PeerTube, sorry, Pi-hole. And this is actually running on Raspberry Pi 2, a very old and poorly powerful device. But yeah, PeerTube, not PeerTube. Pi-hole is great. Use it if you can. What else have you written in chat? Just a guy, add outbound DNS if you've already gone that far. It keeps your ISP from being your DNS server or someone else. I actually use just a guy. I actually use my internal DNS, which is Pi-hole, and Pi-hole does not use. It is not set to use my internet service provider DNS, but it actually uses some upstream DNSs, and I think I have set Cloudflare to be my upstream DNS for the Pi-hole. Zoran says my own DNS. Okay. Okay. How do we follow on Mastodon? Okay, how do you follow on Mastodon? Let me show you that quickly. So Silver Sword Online, this is my own Mastodon. And if you want to, let's say that you are on your Mastodon now. So you go to the search field, and in the search field type @LXR for Linux Renaissance @tux-edu.tv. Can you see what I wrote? Type all this in the search. Okay, and when you type all this in the search, you will find this my account, right? It has some description here, and you will see that this person has been only posting videos and nothing else, because this account is incapable of posting anything except videos, right? And then you just click follow, and that's it. Also, you can follow Dart at tux-edu.tv. This is basically the same. You will get the same videos. The difference is that one is a channel and the other one is a user. But the channel publishes content and the user like reposts this content. It's a bit weird, but basically just search for me in the search field with this, and that is all. Okay, thank you very much for that follow. And Zoran says you can use Mega 20 gigs free, and it's encrypted also Linux rsync tools. Zoran, let's leave that for later, and we're going to start with the lesson now, because 12 minutes. I really tried to compress all of my answers. Next time I'm gonna start half an hour earlier, because a lot of topics, right? Let me just catch some coffee here, and while I do that, you can read what it says here. Okay, so today's lesson easier than the last one, so it shouldn't be too hard to swallow. So we are going to allocate some file systems and swap space to separate partitions or disks, tailor the design to the intended use of the system, ensure the boot partition conforms to the hardware architecture requirements for booting, knowledge of logical volume management. Okay, so I'm not sure if it would be smart to like install Linux during this live stream. Let's see if the documentation is enough to have the total understanding of what's going on, and maybe just use my local command prompt on my local install from which I am streaming to just show how it is already configured. If we will need to repartition a hard drive live, I have some laptops here. We can destroy OpenBSD that I have installed a couple of hours ago. The video that I have published like 2 hours ago. We can destroy that one, and I will install it. I will install OpenBSD again tomorrow. So To succeed in this objective, you need to understand the relationship between disks, partitions, file systems, and volumes. And I believe that most of you actually know the differences, but let's go ahead slowly and see what those are. Think of a disk or a storage device, since modern devices do not contain any disks at all, as physical container for your data, okay? Okay. Hard drives. Some hard drives here and some more hard drives here. So this is your physical container, okay? Okay, very dirty. Too much dust. Okay, good. Before a disk can be used by a computer, it needs to be partitioned. A partition is a logical subset of the physical disk, like a logical fence. Partitioning is a way to compartmentalize information stored on the disk, separating, for example, operating system data from the user data. So already you can tell that a lot of people on Windows have two partitions, usually named C and D in most cases. C would be your Windows partition with your programs, and D usually becomes, I don't know, some people install video games on there, some people put their personal data on that one, etc. On Linux, you usually have your root partition, the slash, right? Which you can place on the first partition, and then you have your slash home partition, which many people prefer to put on a different partition. So what that gives you in a lot of sensible cases is the possibility to make backups like snapshots of your system partition separately from your home partition, or if you're doing a backup, you can do a full backup of your home and not touch the other partition, although you don't need to have it separate for doing the backup, because for the backup you can just tell it which is the folder, right, that you want to backup. So what else you can do with having two different partitions is you can reinstall the operating system if you have ruined it while your home partition is perfectly safe. You can reinstall the operating system and simply not format the home partition while reinstalling the operating system, but simply mount the home partition where it belongs after the install or during the install. So these are the most common reasons to have two partitions. I'm sure that some of you will find more reasons, and that's perfectly valid, but I think these two reasons are pretty much the regular ones. My sister is sending me a message. Oh Lord, okay. I have actually asked my sister to subscribe on my Patreon. I told her be a good sister and subscribe. So there is that. Every disk needs at least one partition, but can have multiple partitions if needed. And information about them is stored in a partition table. So I got a little bit distracted with all the beeps from my smartwatch. Every disk needs at least one partition, but have multiple partitions if needed. Information about them is stored in a partition table. Okay, partition table. That was from the last lesson. This table includes information about the first and last sectors of the partition and its type, as well as further details on each partition. Okay, so if you ruin your partition table, then in most cases, you will not be able to recover your data, or it will be really difficult to recover your data because you will no longer know where your partitions are and etc. So the partition table is really important. Inside each partition, there is a file system. The file system describes the way the information is actually stored on the disk. This information includes how the directories are organized, what is the relationship between them, where is the data for each file, etc. Maybe one other thing that I can tell you, just like quick info, right? I need to take off my watch because too many notifications are coming. So where the data is for each file, stored in file system, right? So there are some file systems that have a modern so-called copy on write functionality. Among them is Butterfile system or BTRFS, BTRFS. This file system has the ability, as the name says, copy on write, is to basically make a copy while not doubling the, how do I put it? This is a little bit difficult to convey. On an older file system, when you make a copy from one folder to another of a file, it will be on two places, usually in an older file system. On ButterFS, if you copy a file to another place, the file system will only store the information that this data is now stored twice in two different places, but it will not actually take double the space, right? So there are some intricacies for all of the different file systems that you can use. Just giving you a heads up what these different file systems can do, right? Partitions cannot span multiple disks, but using the logical volume manager, multiple partitions can be combined even across disks to form a single logical volume. Logical volumes abstract the limitations of the physical device and let you work with pools of disk space that can be combined or distributed in a much more flexible way than traditional partitions. LVM is useful in situations where you would need to add more space to a partition without having to migrate the data to a larger device. In this objective, you will learn how to design a disk partitioning scheme for a Linux file system, allocating file systems and swap space to separate partitions or disks when needed. How to create and manage partitions and file systems will be discussed in other lessons. We will discuss an overview of LVM in this objective, but a detailed explanation is out of the scope. So this lesson is going to be an easier one. I was going to tell you something about logical volume management and multiple hard drives, but I think I'm going to refrain from making this too complex and keeping this lesson simple. I just wanted to mention RAID, but maybe let's not. Mount points. Before a file system can be accessed on Linux, it needs to be mounted. This means attaching the file system to a specific point in your system's directory tree called a mount point. The most common mounting procedure that you will, how do I say it? I'm missing an English word, but all of you have been plugging in USB sticks into your Linux machines, and whenever you do that, the system in the background chooses the directory to which it will mount this block device, and then you will be able to access this USB stick in slash, usually, I'm not sure, maybe minute slash something, I don't know, depending on which Linux distribution, right? Dale Anderson is asking if I would compare logical volume management and RAID. Well, LVM is a part of Linux. Vladimir, okay. Thank you very much for warning me about this. Thank you very much. Logical volume management is what Linux gives you as the LVM and RAID are a little bit intertwined. They're not the same, but in some cases they do the same thing. In some cases they don't do the same thing. And in some cases they are completely unrelated. In some cases they are interconnected and used at the same time. It's not that easy to cram it between two how do you call these paragraphs in less than a minute, right? So we are going to get to that. When mounted, the contents of the file system will be available under the mount point. For example, imagine you have a partition with your user's personal data, their home directories, containing the directories John, Jack, and Carol. When mounted under /home, the contents of those directories will be available under /home/John, /home/Jack, and /home/Carol. So fun fact for those of you with slightly less experience. If you have two partitions on your hard drive, like I said in the beginning, like the first partition is just / and the second partition, so the first partition is just /, okay? And the second partition is /home, okay? So the home is a different partition and it is already mounted. Let me just pull up Ghosty for a second. Let me pull Ghosty and see how do I, okay. Okay, so you can see here that my / partition is mounted and my home partition is mounted. Doesn't matter that it is the same physical partition, but that's how Butterfile system works. So when I go to /home, you can see all of the users folders in this place, right? Okay, so if you take the details, you can see that Dart is listed here. And if you see the size of all of these folders, and let me calculate for a second, you know, how much Dart's folder is taking up on this partition, right? Let's give it a second. Okay, so Dart's folder is taking 800 gigabytes. So just a fun fact, if I would unmount home partition, so let's say that I type the command unmount home. So I first of all, I don't think I can do this while being logged in. It will probably not let me do it. However, I could force it to unmount and then my stream would crash. So let's not do this. But if I would unmount the home partition while not being logged in as a user, but let's say just as a root, then the whole home partition will no longer be available. However, on the after unmounting the home partition, when you would list the contents of the root, you will still see the folder called home over there, but when you would enter it, it would be empty, because you have unmounted the physical partition which actually contains the data. But the mount point would stay as an empty folder. However, if you would then enter the empty home folder and start putting files into it, you would absolutely be able to do that. You would be able to put some files into the home folder and folders and whatever you want, and that would be actually the contents of the root partition. Okay, so the contents of the main one, the contents of this one, no matter that you're putting files in the /home, but the actual home is unmounted, so the home folder is now the part of this partition, right? The /, the root one. And then if you have some new stuff in the home folder and then you mount back your home folder to this mount point called /home, then all of the stuff that is in your actual home partition would magically appear again because now it is mounted, and those couple of files that you have placed into the home folder, those would be they would not be gone, they would just be completely unreachable, because those files are physically contained within this partition, but in a folder which is no longer accessible, because when you go to /home after mounting a different partition to /home, then the data that you have placed in /home folder of this partition is simply unreachable. So when you unmount again your home folder, then you would be able to again see those couple of files that you have placed in /home. I am hopeful that I have not made this too complicated, but I think this, let's call it fun fact, is an interesting insight into how Linux partitions behave while mounting and unmounting. Let me know if this is unclear to any one of you. Okay, no replies in chat. Let's go further on. The mount point must exist before mounting the file system. Okay, this is what I have explained with /home. You cannot mount a partition under monitor user data if this directory does not exist. However, if the directory does exist and contains files, okay, we are getting to what I said. Those files will be unavailable until you unmount the file system. If you list the contents of the directory, you will see the files stored on the mounted file system, not the original contents of the directory prior to mounting. Dale Anderson is asking, did you say the home folder actually puts files in the / when unmounted? No. No, I did not. Give me a second, maybe I can demonstrate this. Sorry about that. Let me plug in the HDMI and let's go with the HDMI capture dongle. Dale Anderson, give me a second to boot up another computer, because when I intentionally break stuff, I need to do it on the machine which is not responsible for keeping the stream up and running, right? Okay, let me see if I can temporarily do something about the size of this I have no time to see how to increase the font size, so I'm going to HDMI capture dongle. I'm just going to stretch. I just stretched the capture part to the bottom left part. Let me show you. So this is my Arch Linux on the laptop, right? So you can see that the home folder. Can you see my? You can't see my pointer, right? Okay, never mind. You can see that my home folder is mounted. Okay, that part is clear, right? So let's go to /home. Okay, so you can see that this /home contains two folders called Dart and User. Okay, so this is the take a look at in the middle of the df result command. It says /home taking up 27% of space. Okay, and let's go back to the root. I'll actually let's change directory to root. Okay, so we can see that we have home here. ls home shows you that we have Dart and User. So let's go ahead and unmount home. Okay, let's unmount home. And let's type df now. You can see in the list that we no longer have home partition. Pardon me, home partition is no longer mounted. But if you type ls, you can see that home is still here, right? Home is only a folder in the root partition. Okay, so if we go to home now and see that there is nothing in there, okay, it's empty because the partition is unmounted. So if we touch something, okay, if we touch something, we now have files called touch something. If we touch something too, we now have two files in this folder. Okay, so let's go back. Do you understand that we now have two files in this folder, right? Okay, this is very clear. So if we mount /home again, okay, what we did now, we have now mounted it again, and let's type df. You can see that /home is now once again mounted. And if we go to home and type plus, we now have again the Dart folder and the user folder. Okay, there is no more something file. Okay, so let's go ahead back to the root partition, and let's unmount /home once again. We have detached it once again, and let's go to home again and list, and voila, now we again have the something files, because the something files are a part of the root file system, of the root partition, not of the home partition. In the home partition, the partition is not actually home. The partition is actually just a partition. The home is the mount point where we are mounting this partition. The partition name is actually a block device. So let me go ahead and I guess I'm gonna just leave it here for now and close the lid and hide it for now. But I think it should be clear by now. Dale Anderson says, amazed that you can switch computers in live stream. Never seen that. Well, it's not that difficult, to be honest. I have a capture card, which is pre-configured in my OBS Studio, my streaming software. And all I do is plug in the HDMI cable from this computer. What I showed you now, the mounting and unmounting, I showed you on this computer. And the way I do it is this serves as an extra monitor, right? And I just capture this monitor to show it to you on stream. So I'm not really switching computers. I'm just switching which screen am I showing to you, so I can have all of them running at the same time. Sysmon says, yo, everything in Linux is a file and folder, which is pretty accurate. There are some special files though, but you're pretty accurate. Alex Shilin says, Lsblk is better than df for virtualization, in my humble opinion. And Sysmon says, for real. Okay. Dale says, got it. Uncle Bonehead that don't like Windows 11 PowerShell. I will pretend that I understand what Uncle Bonehead says, and let's go ahead and continue with some reading. File systems can be mounted anywhere you want. However, there are some good practices that should be followed to make system administration easier. Traditionally, /minute was the directory under which all external devices would be mounted, and a number of pre-configured anchor points for common devices like CD-ROM in the minute CD-ROM and floppy disks in minute floppy existed under it. So this was pretty common previously, right? This has been superseded by /media, which is now the default mount point for any user removable media. For example, external disks, USB flash drives, memory card readers, optical disks, etc. On most modern Linux distributions and desktop environments, removable devices are automatically mounted under media user label when connected to the system. Pendragonian with the 220 Turkish, and once again I forgot Turkish what, but thank you very much for the sticker. And now that we are at it, let's do the all colors thing. Okay. For example, a USB flash drive with the label flash drive connected by the user John would be mounted under media John flash drive. The way this is handled is different depending on the desktop environment. So let's go ahead once more, just for a test, and show you the mount points, and then we are going to go and I think this is my Amiga USB stick. Let's plug it in somewhere. Nope, this is the installer for KDE Linux, but never mind. So where did it mount? It didn't actually mount because I haven't mounted it. Now I did, and it has mounted exactly as the PDF says. It's under run media, my username, and the label of the partition, right? That being said, whenever you need to manually mount a file system, and once again, Alexei wants to see Lsblk. Okay, Lsblk. Great. I am totally used to doing df, and I can't shake it, but I will do my best to follow the advice of the professional. I'm not even joking. I just have bad habits. Yeah, Dell Anderson agrees with the master here. Master Shilin. All right. Let's put this into my muscle memory for future usage. I will try. But there is one thing I just want to say. While Alexei is absolutely right about this, no question about it, I think it is good to know more than just one way how to do things on basically any operating system, including Linux, right? So extra knowledge is really not too much. It's never too much. So in my case, it would be trying to use more the lsblk command, or whatever you pronounce it in English. My apologies, but for you guys, whichever you have been using by default to see what is mounted, you can actually use the mount command as well. It will show you completely different output, but you can also see some things, that are mounted and the way they are mounted. So the mount command is also not bad for showing some other details. So there's that, right? Go play with all three commands, both the df and lsblk and mount. All three of them will give you some specific information by default, and of course you can extend them with certain switches. Alexei, Master Shilen is laughing at me, but I'm being serious. I think more knowledge equals, more power to you and to all of us. That being said, whenever you need to manually mount a file system, it is good practice to mount it under /mnt. The specific commands to control the mounting and unmounting of file system under Linux will be discussed in another lesson. Okay. Keeping things separated. On Linux, there are some directories that you should consider keeping on separate partitions. There are many reasons for this. For example, by keeping bootloader related files stored on /boot path on a boot partition, you ensure your system will still be able to boot in case of a crash on the root file system. If this doesn't sound understandable to everyone, usually you would have, let me go ahead and do the lsblk once more. So in my case, the boot is not really a special partition, but the UEFI partition is, because there I have the grub as an application. So grub can boot. I mean, grub cannot boot. Grub can load itself from this partition, and then it is able to, load stuff from the from this partition. If you want to be thorough, you can make it into multiple partitions. You can have UEFI separate, boot separate, root separate. You can go ahead and, whatever, ls. You can mount all of these as a separate file system if you want. Nothing is really stopping you, but there is a limit where this becomes, let's say, not necessary. Where were we? Keeping users' personal directories under home on a separate partition makes it easier to reinstall the system without the risk of accidentally touching the user data. Okay, so this is a little bit double-edged sword, because accidentally touching user data, you can always be a bit stupid and tell the installer to just wipe your hard drive, and it will wipe your hard drive, including the user data, no matter that it is on another partition. Del Anderson says, I think the problem for non-Linux users is that most people use the word mount to define the word mount, which can be confusing. Are there other words for mount? What do you mean the word mount to define the word mount? I am confused. You mean like a mount, like a horse in a video game? Or what do you mean, Dale Anderson? Mounting is, well, the horse thing is actually good. You have a horse, like You have this horse, right? And you have a person who rides the horse, and you need to mount the horse. Okay, so this is your partition, and this is your path. So you are mounting your partition onto the path. You're mounting a person to the horse. I mean, it's not that abstract. Pendragonian thinks that he means the mountain. If anyone in chat knows any other word in Linux for mounting this file system, let me know, but I don't recall any. Del Anderson says I mean defining a word by using the same word without using other words. I'm totally confused by this. I tried the horse analogy, but I don't think that I can go into more details because I have been using the word mount for this particular job since the last 25 years. So it's a bit difficult for me to rewind myself to the beginning when I wasn't aware what mount was. What does Windows use for attaching a USB drive? I have no clue. In Windows, when you attach a USB drive, it just appears as a new letter. I mean, I don't know what the process is called because I have never did it manually. Okay, in Windows it's so automated that I have never reached this point to understand how I can detach the USB drive and attach it again without unplugging it and putting it back. I think I know who is good at responding to this question. Give me a second. Give me a second. Why is this command not working? You give me just a second. Unless you're discussing it already. Let me read the chat. Pendragonian says Maclink on Windows. When you mount the toy box is unlocking. Okay, let's call the doctor DeepSeek. Okay, we are talking to DeepSeek now. Explain to me like I am 5 years old what the Linux command okay. Okay, so DeepSeek says, okay, I need to explain what the Linux mount command is. Let's see, I know that when you use USB drive and external hard drive, you have to plug it in, But wait, but how do I break this down into something simple for a child? Maybe using an analogy they understand, like inserting a toy into a playset. Who said playset in the chat? Someone said playset in the chat. I should think about the command itself. The mount command is used to attach a file system to a directory, which makes its contents accessible in the file system hierarchy. This is still chatbot thinking. This is not the answer. This is him thinking. But how to explain it in the another jargon? Maybe by saying that USB drive becomes like an extension of your computer's hard drive. So when you use mount, you're telling the computer where to find this new place. Without mounting, the computer does not know where the USB contents are stored. Okay, putting it all together, the mount command is like plugging in a USB or connecting an external. Okay, so the actual answer for the child of 5 is the Linux mount command. Let me move the picture out of the way. So the Linux mount command is like plugging in a USB drive or connecting an external hard drive to your computer. It is how your computer tells it that there is a new place to store files, just like adding a building to your toy city. Once mounted, your computer can see and use the files on the stick or external drive if they were a part of your own storage. So I think this explanation sucks. But that's what we got. Well, Vladimir is pretty close. I mean, if the ship docks on the actual dock, then people can enter this ship and fill it up. And also people can exit the ship. And all of the people are actually files and folders. But also when the ship departs the dock, people can still enter the dock space. They will fall into the sea though, but they can do that. They will be wet, but they can enter the space where ship would dock usually, right? So they will be in the sea, and if the ship comes while the people are in the sea, then the ship will be on top of these people, and new people can enter the ship. So the other ones will be below the ship while the ship is docked, and when the ship undocks, people can swim out again. Da ugasim kameru. Okay, I need to kill the camera for a while, but we can continue. Yes. Alexei says, I think the best way to describe it is to draw a file hierarchy tree and connect one tree to a leaf or another tree. I like the tree analogy, closer to how computer actually works. I don't think that the ship thing was particularly bad, but I suppose the tree would be better. I just am not sure if I can draw it. Do you guys have an idea about a simple paint program? Or maybe I can just use GIMP. It doesn't have to be a simple program. Okay, let's do a new. Okay, where is the pen? Pencil. Pencil, okay, not that one. Let's go with this one. Okay. So, Alexei, help me out with the tree. What kind of a tree did you have in mind? Okay. Is this the tree, Alexei, that you wanted to show? Alexei is not in chat anymore. I'm just kidding. GNU is not Unix, yeah. Well, okay, so let's do it like this. If you have SATA drives, let's change the color a little bit. So this here is mounted as /dev/cda1 as a block device, right? So you have this device called, where is my face? Okay, it's not in the way, good. So you have a block device called SDA1, one being the first partition of the first hard drive on the SATA interfaces, and this partition is mounted on the root partition, okay? And then you have the home partition. Where is my pencil? Why is my pencil not working? And then you have home partition, which is /dev/cda2. Okay, so this is the second partition of the first hard drive on the SATA interface that is being mounted. Actually, I'm wrong. Oh, no. Where is the delete? Where is the delete? I made a small error here. Okay. So this partition is actually mounted, or the other way. It's mounted. So this partition is mounted on this path. This partition is mounted on this path. Okay. And if you want to mount a USB stick, then you will have something like, let's say, dev SD, I don't know, B1, or yeah, I think it will be SDB1 in many cases. So SDB1 in many cases, this one will then mount to monitor slash USB. And the way that you will accomplish this this mounting, right, is by doing a command like this: mount slash dev slash sdb1 to slash monitor slash USB. Okay, so let's make a bit more space so that you can see where the space is. Okay, so this command here will mount or attach this partition to this here path. Okay, okay, Dale Anderson is telling me how to use the pencil. That's fine, but I have managed to do what I can. I think I'm gonna use. I think I'm gonna get a tablet or something to draw on, because with a mouse it's really difficult. Alexei says trying to find an example. Okay, Alexei, if you find a better example than what I just drew here, please do link it wherever in chat, and I'm going to open it. Send a link to Matrix. Oh, you have sent a link to Matrix. Okay. Okay, let me open it. Which image did you want to show? This one or the one up there? Mounting and down mounting illustration. Can I zoom this in? When I zoom it, it's kind of why does it go away? Okay. Oh, good, good. Let me just see how much my face is covering. Let's pull the camera all the way up there. Okay. Is this the image? Is this the image, Alexei, that you wanted me to pull up? I can't tell what it says here because the whole thing is in dark mode. Tools. Navigation. Vladimir says again, man, 7 here to see everything explained. I can't decode that sentence. It seems like you have a typo. But yeah, I think this drawing, well, it's technically better. It shows different file systems before and after mounting. Yeah. Okay. Let's zoom it a little bit. Oh, that's too much. Okay, so initial state partition are mounted on slash partition B and C not mounted. State 2 after having mounted B on slash home. Okay, so at this point, so before mounting, we have the file system slash, and in the slash we have slash user slash etc and slash home. So this is not too different than what I already draw. So we have slash user slash home slash var slash etc. Okay, so let's go back to the professional drawing, and then we have a different partition here called I guess this is a B partition, and this is like a C partition. So these two are not mounted, and this one is not mounted, but it is going to be mounted. So this partition has a structure that starts with the initial folder, right? Let's call it root of this partition, which contains two folders, user1 and user2, and each one of these folders contain one documents folder. So documents in this folder and documents in that folder, and both of these folders in the root folder of this partition. So in the after scenario, when we finish the mounting process, which is what I said here, when you type the command mount the block device to the path, then what happens is where's my browser? Then we have this partition plugged into the home folder on this partition. So in that case, the user1 and user2 are no longer in the root, but now they are a part of the home partition, which is a part of root. So this is what this drawing is showing. It's not too different from my drawing, it just looks a lot better. Guys, can we move on from this, or is there something that still did not properly mount on your brain? I'm willing to sit on this for as long as it takes, but you need to say what is unclear, because I have really expected this lesson to be easier than the last one. I mean, systemd is a lot harder than mounting partitions. Guys, what Alexei said in chat. Okay, let's take away the stuff that we don't need. All right, let's move the photo back down. So I'm going to read this paragraph once more. Keeping users' personal directories under /home on a separate partition makes it easier to reinstall the system without the risk of accidentally touching user data. So in my opinion, this is not correct. But it does makes it easier for you to avoid overwriting the user data, but you still need to be careful not to tell the installer to overwrite your home partition. But yeah. Alexei says one just needs to understand the concept once and then it's all easy. I mean, I definitely agree with that. I may be able to draw something else, but a little bit cleaner after the stream and publish it somewhere as an extra like a homework or something. I'm going to think about it after the stream. Keeping data related to the web, to a web or database server, usually under /var, on a separate partition or even a separate disk, makes system administration easier should you need to add more disk space for those use cases. There may be even performance reasons to keep certain directories on a separate partitions. You may want to keep the root file system on a speedy SSD unit and the bigger directories like home and var on a slower hard disk, which offer more space for a fraction of the cost. Okay, so this is an obsolete statement, because nowadays SSD prices are no longer that much higher than traditional hard drives. So the cost is somewhat debatable. The speed is definitely not debatable. but the reasons where you will mount which technology of the storage depends on what you will use that folder for. So the root file system, depending on what it contains, may or may not benefit from a speedy SSD unit. And when I say may or may not, is the fact that if you have most of the system on a slow hard drive and you only serve, let's say that this is a server only for a database, and you have the database mounted on the folder which is plugged onto an SSD drive. So the database sits on an SSD while the most of the system is on a slow hard drive, and your server is only serving the database service, then the whole system will be pretty performant because the rest of the system, once it boots up, doesn't really need all that SSD speed in this particular scenario. Okay, so there are many scenarios that are worth analyzing where you need faster and where you need a slower, not slower, but cheaper storage unit. And Alexei says better to SSD everything. It depends on a use case, because when you go to a really high storage capacities, like let's say 20 terabyte hard drives, like for example, if you buy two of these guys and both of them are 20 terabyte each, then first of all, these guys will be a lot cheaper than SSDs because SSDs did not reach that much terabytes yet. They may exist, but they're quite expensive, even if they do exist, right? So if you need a shitload of storage, then the normal hard drive still may be your best bet, and then you can mirror them if you have two of them, so that the data is being kept safe from one of the hard drives dying. And you can play around with RAID in many other configurations with 3 hard drives or more of them. So there is still use case for regular hard drives, but for most normal scenarios, I think you're fairly safe with SSDs, since they don't cost much more than normal hard drives anymore. The boot partition /boot. The boot partition contains files used by the bootloader to load the operating system. On Linux systems, the bootloader is usually grub2, or on older systems, grub legacy. I would argue, or even Lilo, the even older bootloader. The partition is usually mounted under boot, and its files are stored in /boot/grub. Technically, a boot partition is not needed, since in most cases grub can mount the root partition and load the files from a separate boot directory. So this is how I have it configured. However, a separate boot partition may be desired for safety, ensuring the system will boot even in case of a root file system crash. Thanks for the hearts. Or if you wish to use a file system which the bootloader cannot understand in the root partition, or if it uses an unsupported encryption or compression method. Okay, so we are getting in a lot of details here. Pendragonian says this part reminds you on the first lesson. Yes, me as well. The boot partition is usually the first partition on the disk. Not necessarily, but yeah, it seems practical to do it that way. This is because the original IBM PC BIOS addressed disks using cylinders heads and sectors, with a maximum of 1024 cylinders, 256 heads, and 63 sectors, resulting in a maximum disk size of 528 megabytes, and a little bit less under DOS. This means that that anything past this mark would not be accessible on legacy systems unless a different disk addressing scheme like logical block addressing was used. So for maximum compatibility, the boot partition is usually located at the start of the disk and ends before the 1024th cylinder, so in the first half a gigabyte, ensuring that no matter what, the machine will always be able to load the kernel. Since the boot partition only stores files needed by the bootloader, the initial RAM disk and kernel images, it can be quite small by today's standards. A good size is around 300 megabytes. So what this is saying is that on the older systems, which would have hard drives larger than half a gigabyte, you would have the boot partition in the very beginning of the hard drive, like physically on the beginning of the hard drive. So from the spinning, how do I say it? From the spinning disk inside the hard drive, that would be on the inner edge of the circle, right? The more you go to the outside, this is the edge of the hard drive. So in the first half a gigabyte, you put the boot partition, then the kernel loads from there. And once the kernel loads, then the kernel is able to address more than half a gigabyte of the hard drive, and then the kernel will give you the power, if I can put it this way, to use the rest of your hard drive if it's bigger than the half a gigabyte. The UEFI system partition, or ESP. The UEFI system partition is used by machines based on the Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, UEFI, to store bootloaders and kernel images for the operating systems installed, also one of the previous lessons. This partition is formatted as a FAT-based file system. Alexei says, I don't know about 300 megabytes. Init RAM FS for modern kernels may be around 100 megabytes alone, and there is usually more than one kernel there. Let me see my system. So we are here, du-hs. Okay, so my system is taking up 200 megabytes. We have init RAM FS, okay, and du-hs/fi. Okay, so the grub bootloader application, UEFI application, is incredibly small and irrelevant for this discussion. But my init RAM FS and the rest of my boot folder is 200 megabytes. So I guess I would agree that 300 megabytes may be tight by today's standards. However, I think this whole discussion here is a little bit old school and isn't really taking into consideration how we do it today. Because by the today's standards, once again, by the today's standards, we usually have the UEFI partition as a separate partition, which definitely needs to host the application that is the bootloader. So I made mine 1 gigabyte, which is a total overkill since I have only filled it up 300 kilobytes. Like nothing. And this is just grub software. So 1 gigabyte was a stupid thing to do. In my case, it could have been a lot smaller, but it is what it is. And then once my grub loads, the rest of the thing because just because it can. Okay, so modern grub can handle all of this, and we don't really need the root partition unless you want to have all of the possibilities to rescue your system. However, if I would crash my system, what I would most likely do, I would just use the Arch Linux. I mean, I'm using Arch here, so I would use the Arch installer USB, boot that one, and then use that boot USB stick to access my actual SSD on the computer to repair what is broken. You can do it in different ways, right? So I think it's relatively okay to have one installer USB stick ready at hand. But even if you don't, you can always make one by using some other computer. You know, when you fall into trouble. This partition, like UEFI, is formatted in a FAT-based file system. On a disk partitioned with a good partition table, it has a globally unique identifier, which is this. If the disk was formatted under the MBR partitioning scheme, the partition ID is 0 times EF. And what the identifier is, let me see if I can show you in a simple way. Disk /dev/nvme 0 and 1. 0 and 1. Okay, so what I am about to do, I am about to call the text user interface of a tool that is dealing with making and deleting partitions on a hard drive. So the dev NVMe 0 and 1 is a block device that is my actual SSD. So we are now going to present the text user interface of the structure of the partitions on my SSD, okay? And we are denied. Okay, let's sudo. Good. So here is that you can see I have two partitions, okay? The second one is called NVMe 0 and 1, the device, the hard drive, the SSD, and P2 is partition 2. And you can see that partition 2 has a mount point of /, so partition 2 is mounted as a /, although this is not entirely correct, but let's pretend that this is the ultimate true for a second, and you can see that it is a butter file system, and you can see that partition UID is 55503 whatever, and this means this is a Linux file system above my pointer here, right? And if I switch up there, now we are seeing the file system, the FAT file system. It is mounted on the location, on the well, can I call it location? I think it's pretty clear, right? It is mounted at /UEFI, and it's not a butter file system, but FAT. And it is recognized as UEFI file system, and it has this kind of ID. So if I can go back here, sorry, see this partition type. Partition type is UEFI system. Okay, so what the PDF says, it has this special ID which the whole system can understand that this is the partition type inside which we are having the applications that are used as bootloaders. I think I have explained it fairly good, but we have also been through this in previous lessons. So if I can just quickly remind you from previous lessons, so what we have in /FE, let's quit this, cd/FE. So inside here we have another folder. Let's go to another folder, and inside here we have grub folder, and let's go to grub folder, and inside here we have this like executable file of the FE format. So what the FE executable file is, this is a special program which the UEFI how do I say it? You do remember from previous lessons. So when the motherboard wakes up, the first thing that it does is that it does these checks on itself, and then the UEFI searches for the connected drives for these special partitions, right? That have this special partition identifier. And when it finds such partitions, it will look inside and it will find these applications. And it will give you the possibility of loading these applications. So these are special applications or programs that the UEFI BIOS, let's call it BIOS for a second, but it is UEFI, it is able to load them. So this is literally grub program prepared in a way that your motherboard can directly load it up. And that's it. And once the motherboard loads up this one, then grub takes over, and then grub can access its config file, and in the config file of grub it says which kernel to load, from which partition, there is a lot that is going on after that, but let's just keep it to the most important part, that grub loads the kernel, and then kernel takes over from there. I think that was fairly easy to digest. I'm going to pause for a few seconds until someone gives me a thumbs up in chat. So if you are doing an automated Linux install, let's say Ubuntu, you will not do anything manually, and Ubuntu will do all of the partitioning in your name. If you do it, the automatic way, and you will not understand what happened. But taking this lesson into consideration and some of the previous ones, if you, let's say, install Arch Linux manually, at some point you will be tasked with creating partitions. What you will most certainly have to do if you're creating UEFI boot system, you will have to create a special FAT partition with this identifier. And you will format it as FAT 32, 16, or FAT 12. And in there you will be placing your grub FE program. And Zoran says that we can continue. On machines running Microsoft Windows, this partition is usually the first one on the disk, although this is not required. The ESP is created or populated by the operating system upon installation, and on a Linux system is mounted under boot/FE. So all of the operating systems that use the UEFI system, all of them use the ESP FAT type partition, with this special identifier, and all of them have their bootloader in there. In theory and in practice, you can have Windows on one partition, Linux on a second partition, and the ESP partition as a third one. And inside the ESP partition, you can have both the Linux bootloader and the Windows bootloader. Both of them can be in the same ESP partition. And then in that case, you will be able to tell the BIOS to, not BIOS, the UEFI to load either Windows bootloader or Linux bootloader, which is grub. But most people dual boot in a way that they simply go straight up to the grub, and then they configure grub to boot Windows as a menu option, right? So when grub loads up, it usually presents you like boot Linux by default, and if you go down twice, usually, you will have the option to boot Windows. This is how most Linux automated installs do it if you install Linux after you have installed Windows. Okay, the home partition. Each user in the system has a home directory to store personal files and preferences, and most of them are located under /home. Usually the home directory is the same as the username, so the user John would have his directory under home John. However, there are exceptions. For example, the home directory for the root user is /root, and some system services may have associated users with home directories elsewhere. For example, if you have, say, I don't know, Apache web server, I think it has a special username. I think it's httpd on some systems, which also has a home folder like /var/httpd. Is it? I lost it in my memory, but some services have their username under which they run their daemons. And usually they have their own home folders, which are somewhere on the system, depending on how this service is designed. Del Anderson says, I had a problem cloning a GPT Windows partition when upgrading to a larger SSD, possibly GUID copied too, but not seen through the USB NVMe adapter. Del Anderson, I am unable to troubleshoot this particular problem without more tangible facts. Many things could have happened by the process of cloning, whatever you mean by that. I mean, I know what cloning is, but I don't know how you did it, with which tool you did it, and what did it involve. So yeah. Usually you would either need to understand what is required for the system to boot properly. So maybe your cloning was a success, but maybe this happened. Maybe the how do I say it? Maybe EFI partition wasn't properly cloned. You know, so maybe you did clone your data properly, but maybe just it wasn't bootable, and and not being bootable is something that is not that hard to fix, but it does require a little bit of manual labor, right? You would then, if you didn't clone the EFI partition, you would then need to make room for the EFI partition, like free space on a hard drive. Then you would need to boot Windows Rescue installer and go to the option that pulls up the text console, the command line, whatever it is called, PowerShell. And then from there you could run some commands that would rescue the system and make it bootable again. Usually the thing would simply recognize on its own that the FE partition is missing, and it would fix it for you. And that's actually one of the most common ways to fix it. Comment about the global unique identifier statement earlier. Sorry, no worries. The home partition. We have read this already. For example, the home directory for the root user is /root, and some system services may have associated users with home directories elsewhere. There is no rule to determine the size of a partition for the home directory. You should take into account the number of users in the system and how it will be used. A user which only does web browsing and word processing will require less space than one who works with video editing, for example. Variable data /var. This directory contains variable data, or files and directories the system must be able to write to during operation. This includes system logs in /var/log, temporary files in /var/tmp, and cached application data in /var/cache. Var www/html is also the default directory for the data files for the Apache web server, and var libmysql is the default location for database files for the MySQL server. However, both of these can be changed. One good reason for putting var in a separate partition is stability. Many applications and processes write to var and subdirectories like var log or var tmp. A misbehaved process may write data until there is no free space left on the file system. If var is under /, so not as a separate partition, this may trigger a kernel panic and file system corruption, causing a situation that is difficult to recover from. But if var is kept under a separate partition, the root file system will be unaffected once the var file system fills up entirely in this unfortunate scenario. Like in the home, there is no universal rule to determine the size of a partition for /var, as it will vary with how the system is used. On a home system, it may take only a few gigabytes, but on a database or a web server, much more space may be needed. In such scenarios, it may be wise to put /var on a partition on a different disk than the root partition, adding an extra layer of protection against physical disk failure. Okay, so one of the unfortunate things when you have a home computer and you want to be neat about your partitions is, let's say that you have a smaller drive. The relatively common thing is for cheaper laptops to have 256 gigabyte SSD. So if you went ahead and assign, let's say 50 gigabytes to root, 100 gigabytes to home, 50 gigabytes to var, and if you make too many of these partitions just to be neat, then this will decrease your ability to use your user folder to the full capacity, because a lot of the system folder, the system partitions will be unused, because there is a much higher chance that your user will fill up your home folder, I don't know, with video games or video files or whatever, or some downloads, than the log files filling up on a regular personal computer. So if you're neat with all of these partitions, You may avoid some kind of a theoretical system crash, but you will be utilizing your storage device in a poor way. So what I do on my computer is, let me just show you one more time, but I don't think let's do the once again. So what I do is I put the both home and both /partition on the same partition. Okay, so this is the same physical partition that is almost 1 terabyte in size, but I have two partitions which are virtual partitions on the physical partition. So this is a little bit more complex of a topic, but this is what Butterfly system enables me to do. Is it enables me to have two separate partitions, so I can handle some of the things separately, simply because they are presenting to the system as separate actual partitions, but the physical one is the same. So both of them are filling up the same physical partition at the same time, right? So whatever I put in the home folder automatically fills up my root partition, right? So this way I can simply pour the water, at the same time in both of the glasses. This is good for me. Whether this is good for you, it is up to you to decide. I prefer it this way because often I have previously made multiple partitions, and then I would fill up my home folder while I would have like 200 more gigabytes free on my root partition, and then I would go about resizing partitions, and this is a pain in the ass to do, right? So this is how I do it, and the way you will do it is by gaining some experience and then deciding whatever you want, right? It is your system. The system will listen to you. Swap. The swap partition is used to swap memory pages from RAM to disk as needed. Disk partition needs to be of a specific type, once again, and set up with a proper utility called make swap before it can be used. The swap partition cannot be mounted like the others, meaning that you cannot access it like a normal directory and peek at its contents. A system can have multiple swap partitions, though this is uncommon, and Linux also supports the use of swap files instead of partitions, which can be useful to quickly increase swap space when needed. So what this means is that if you have initially created a separate swap partition of 4 gigabytes, which is relatively common, and at some point you realize that you need more, then you can not go ahead around and about resizing the partitions, but simply create another swap partition and mount it as a second swap, and let's say that the swap file is 4 gigabytes and your initial swap partition was 4 gigabytes, and now we have 8 gigabytes of available swap storage area. The size of the swap partition is a contentious issue. The old rule from the early days of Linux, twice the amount of RAM, may not apply anymore depending on how the system is being used and the amount of physical RAM installed. So naturally, if you have 64 gigabytes of RAM, you will most certainly not need 128 gigabytes of swap, because there is tiny chance that you will ever use that. Most systems nowadays, like personal systems, are fairly okay with 4 gigabytes of swap, which you can extend if needed. But I think 4 gigs is like fine. I have 10 on my computer simply because, well, like, why not? I have enough of the storage, so I made it 10 and I have it like a swap file. So if I realize that I don't really need it, I can decrease it. If I realize that I need it bigger, I can just unmount it, increase the size and mount it again. So it's just a swap file, right? So have this as you will, right? Maybe I can just show it to you. Let's see my htop here. So where does it says? I mean, the red part here is the swap. Where does it says how big it is? And why doesn't it say? I'm slightly confused about this btop. Btop says, where is my swap here? It's actually 4 gigs. Okay, I suppose I have created it 4 gigs. I'm pretty sure that it was 10 gigs in the beginning. No, this is 4 gigs utilization out of most Let's see what top says. Top says swap 10 gigabytes total, yeah, and 4 gigs used. Okay, so I have used 4 gigs of swap. But what you need to understand about how the swap functions on Linux, there is something called swappiness. This is literally a thing. You can tune swappiness between I can call it stages, for example. Basically, what you tell the kernel is how much aggressively do you want to use the swap. If you decrease it to the minimum, then the kernel will use swap only when really needed. If you increase it to a high value, then the kernel will happily use your swap all of the time and move a lot of stuff from RAM to swap just because you told him to do that. But by default, what the kernel will do, as far as I know, if you don't change the default swappiness, the kernel will simply monitor what you have been storing in your RAM but haven't been using for a while. It will simply move it to the swap, and in this way it will free up some of your RAM. And the thing will be in the swap, but it will be like more room in the RAM to quickly load up something new. And if ever you will again need this data back in the RAM, for example, some program that you have minimized 3 days ago and haven't clicked it for 3 days, when you click it, there might be a slight delay into this program, like maximizing back up. Like if you have an SSD, it might take only a second for it to recover from a semi-frozen state. It might feel like a glitch, right? Because the system will load up this data from the swap back into the RAM in order to literally wake up this process. Dale Anderson says, I asked ChatGPT if mount points are like symlinks on steroids for file system, and it said yes. If symlinks are like aliases, mount points are like plugging in a whole new hard drive into a folder. I don't like this analogy, to be honest. I really don't like it. On the documentation for Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7. Red Hat, so this operating system is not only old, but also it is unsupported. That's how old it is. Just have that in mind. So on the documentation of an old unsupported Red Hat operating system, Red Hat, the company recommends the following. If you have 2 to 8 gigabytes of RAM, then your swap file or swap partition will be the exact same as your RAM. But if you will use Hibernation, then you will need twice the amount of RAM, which is also incorrect. So most of today's systems are between 8 and 16 gigabytes of RAM. So what you will probably want to do is have, like, if this is your desktop computer, I think having like 8 gigabytes of swap, no matter if you have 8 gigs or 16 gigs of RAM, I think having like 8 gigs of swap will cover most of your needs. And if you are using the Hibernation, do you know what Hibernation is? It is putting like your computer to sleep, but not into the RAM, but to your hard drive. So when you hibernate your computer, basically it stores all of its current state. Whatever is open, it will stay open, but you will be able to unplug your battery because it will no longer be using any electricity. And when you wake it up, it will take a while to put back all of the all of the data back from the swap into the RAM. This takes some time. And when it wakes up completely, then it will be just as you left it, with everything open. This is hibernation. The same thing can be replicated as sleep, which is basically suspend to RAM. In this state, all of the hardware is powered off except the RAM. Only the RAM stays powered by the battery, and since the RAM spends much less power than the screen and the CPU, then usually most of the average laptops can stay in sleep, like powering RAM, for a couple of days, right? Depending on the laptop battery size. The bigger the laptop, usually the bigger the battery, and more of the days it can stay in sleep mode. So when you open the lid back up, if it was just suspended to RAM, the battery will be somewhat depleted, but it will wake up almost instantaneously. So in order to use Hibernation, which uses no battery power to for its functionality, but only the swap file or the swap partition, for this your swap size needs to be bigger than your RAM size, but not twice the bigger. Usually you can just go ahead and make your swap like 1 gigabyte larger than your RAM is if you want Hibernate, because what Hibernate will do, the Hibernate will take everything that is currently loaded in your RAM and it will copy it to the swap area. So if your RAM wasn't filled up completely, for example, at the moment when you hibernate, if you have only half of your 16 gigabytes of RAM full, then it will copy 8 gigabytes of stuff onto your swap file. But if your RAM was full when you have entered the hibernation, then it will copy 16 gigabytes of data into your swap file. So you need to have a little bit more of a swap storage in order to hibernate, a little bit more than your RAM size is. Oh, So the Red Hat recommends 8 to 64 gigs. Swap file recommended at least 4 gigs. Oh, basically that's what I said. So 8 is pretty good, but the Hibernation is 1.5 the amount of RAM, which once again I don't understand. What do they mean by this? I have never encountered the need to have this much swap storage. I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe Master Shilling knows what do they mean by 1.5, but I really don't understand it. Of course, the amount of swap can be workload dependent. If the machine is running a critical service such as a database, web, or SAP server, it is wise to check the documentation for these services or your software vendor for a recommendation on the swap size. For more on creating and enabling swap partitions, see objective 104, which is something that we are going to reach pretty soon. Logical volume management. We have already discussed how disks are organized into one or more partitions, with each partition containing a file system, which describes how files and associated metadata are stored. This part I hope is clear. There are some words here. One of the downsides of the partitioning is that the system administrator has to decide beforehand how the available disk space on a device will be distributed. This is what I told you about having too many partitions on a smaller drive and then being in a difficult situation where you fill up one partition and you have plenty of free space on other partitions. That's where you have decided wrongly on how to distribute the disk space. This can present some challenges later if a partition requires more space than originally planned. Of course, partition can be resized, but this may not be possible if, for example, there is no free disk space on the disk. Logical volume management is a form of storage virtualization that offers system administrators a more flexible approach to managing disk space than traditional partitioning. The goal of logical volume management is to facilitate managing the storage needs of your end users. The basic unit is the physical volume, which is a block device on your system like a disk partition or a RAID array. Physical volumes are grouped into volume groups, which is abstract the underlying devices and are seen as a single logical device with the combined storage capacity of the component of the physical volumes. Okay, so this is getting a lot technical at this point. Unfortunately, I understand it, but it may be slightly difficult to show it without taking a Debian installer and making the installation in front of you with the logical volume management. But I will do my best to show it to you without installing Linux in the middle of the stream right now, because that will for sure take a long time to do. So, physical volumes is something that the disk itself understands as a partition. So if you take partitioning software and you see one physical volume from the logical volume management, this could mean a normal partition or LVM, but LVM is usually marked on your disk as LVM. So you have LVM on one disk. Let's say that you have one disk only on your computer, then you have one physical volume. But on a physical volume, you cannot put partitions. You have to have volume groups. I will get to the reason why. So when you make a physical volume, which appears as a partition on an actual hard drive, then you need on this physical volume, PV, you need to create a volume group. No matter that this is just one hard drive, you need to create a volume group. You can, for example, for the most simple scenario, you can make just one volume group that spans across the entire physical volume. And the physical volume spans across the entire hard drive. And this requires a new image, I can already tell. Okay. Okay, so this is your hard drive. Good. So what happens then is that on your hard drive, you will create a physical volume, okay? But you cannot put a partition on a physical volume. So on a physical volume, you need to create a volume group. And then, which is probably what the PDF will soon say, but I haven't read it yet. And then you can put a partition 1 on your volume group, which is, for example, your root, and then you can put like partition 2 on your /home. Why this is, I am hopeful that the remainder of the PDF will explain, but if it doesn't, I will explain it in my own words. Let's leave this picture as it is for now, because we are going to add another hard drive very soon. PVs are grouped into volume groups, which abstract the underlying devices and are seen as a single logical device with the combined storage capacity of the components PVs. Each volume in a volume group is subdivided into fixed size pieces called extents. Okay, these words even I didn't know. Extents on a PV are called physical extents, while those on a logical volume are called logical extents, LEs. Generally, each logical extent is mapped to a physical extent, but this can change if features like disk mirroring are used. Volume groups can be subdivided into logical volumes, which functionally work in a similar way to partitions, but with more flexibility. The size of a logical volume, as specified during its creation, is in fact defined by the size of the physical extents 4 megs by default, multiplied by the number of extents on the volume. From this, it is easy to understand that to grow a logical volume, for example, all that the system administrator has to do is add more extents from the pool available in the volume group. Likewise, extents can be removed to shrink the logical volume. After a logical volume is created, it is seen by the operating system as a normal block device. A device can be created in /dev, named as /dev vg name level name, where vg name is the name of the volume group and level name is the name of a logical volume. These devices can be formatted with the desired file system using standard utilities like makefilesystem ext4, for example, and mounted using the usual methods, either manually with the mount command or automatically by adding them to the etc fsetab file. So this is a lot to digest even for me. Luckily, I have done this a couple of times, so I have the grasp of what the PDF is talking about. But other than Master Shilin, I have a fairly reasonable thought that most of you are very confused at this point. So let's try to untangle this as much as I can. So if you remember my own, let's see where it was, my own partition. Okay, okay, so my own partition, this is actually not ideal, this is better, the is better for this. So my root file system is this block device, okay, so in /dev, among other things, we have block devices. This is a block device, the actual physical SSD with this identifier, okay? So what I am doing is I'm taking partition 2 on this hard drive, which is a block device, and then I'm mounting this as a root file system. I think this is pretty clear. However, when you have logical volumes, then you need to go to, first of all, you need to create them, right? If they are not created, you will not see them under dev. Once you create them, you will see them under the path /dev volume group, okay? And inside volume group, you will see volume name. So volume name is actually a partition. Let's go back to GIMP. So this is what I told you, partition 1 and partition 2. So this is like a volume name. Let me just see, level name, okay. Maybe I can just type then lev and lev, okay. So this is a logical volume that sits on how do I put it, on VGs, okay, on VGs, and VGs are sitting on PVs, okay, so logical volume, volume groups, and physical volumes. Oh boy, this is a lot to talk about, and even more to take into your stomach if this is the first time that you are hearing of this. I'm going to add a second hard drive to this picture very soon, but let's read a little bit more to see if this text is covering 2 hard drives. These devices can be formatted. Okay, we have already read it. And we have guided exercises. Okay, so this document is finished, but in my opinion, it did not cover something that I would put into this exercise. I imagine it comes later, but let's put it here. Okay. I have just added hard drive 2. Okay. Hard drive 1. I think this is fairly understandable. We now have 2 hard drives. Good? Easy to understand. The blue ones. Who is in chat? Who is following what the blue one sees? Give me a thumbs up if you understand the blue color represent these guys. I need thumbs up in chat for the blue color for these guys. Why is my chat not moving? Maybe either you guys are not typing or something is frozen. Oh crap, my chat was frozen for a while. No wonder I thought that you're not typing anything. Let me just catch up. Pendragonian says, so logical volumes are virtual partitions which combine real partitions or drive. Pendragonian, you are close. Let's go ahead and thank you for the thumbs up. Let's go ahead. So we have two blue hard drives, and the way that logical volume management works is that we have red color, we have a physical volume, okay? Physical volume 1 that is literally sitting on a hard drive 1, and then we have physical volume 2, which is sitting on the entirety of the hard drive 2. So this might not be the scenario in all of the cases, because you as an administrator will decide how you will design physical volume, the logical volume management. But in a simpler scenario where you already have, let's say, a working environment and you have added like two blue hard drives into your system, and these two blue hard drives will have just one partition. Okay, this will be like spanning, but without the RAID. This is something that I will invent for this scenario, but it is one of the many scenarios that you can do. So first of all, you need physical volume here and physical volume here. What physical volumes are, this is like an identifier on the partition table on the hard drive that the red ones are actually LVMs. They need to be understood by the partitioning table and by Linux kernel as LVMs. Okay, so first of all, you put physical volumes. And then you need volume groups. But we will not use one volume group on one physical volume anymore. What we will do is take an eraser. We will erase this border here. And what we are going to do is we will extend the volume group across both of these physical volumes. Okay, so now you have two physical volumes, each spanning across the entirety of each one of this hard drive, and then we have only one volume group which spans across two physical volumes. So very simple concept. 750 gigabytes times 2 blue ones, 750 gigabytes times 2 red ones, and only one green one, which is 1.5 terabytes large. This is not the only way to use volume groups. This is just one of the designs that you can create, okay? And once you have created this volume group, then you will make partitions, which are logical volumes, and you can simply continue making partitions here, right? So right now I have a little bit of free space here on my 1.5 terabyte volume group, and then I have three small partitions, three small logical volumes, one large one, and one again small one, right? So what I can do at this point, I can resize these guys as whatever I like, because with logical volume management, it's a little bit easier to resize stuff. This is the advantage. What you can absolutely do, you can absolutely take an eraser, and let's make it slightly bigger. You can absolutely erase. How did that happen? Oh my. I need a simpler drawing program, not the one with layers. Okay, so I am now erasing all of my logical volumes. And now I no longer have any logical volumes because I don't have any partitions anymore. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to create a new logical volume that spans across the entirety of the volume group, and this will be LV1, which then I can mount as /home, because now I have, let's say, one hard drive with the root file system, and then I have added two hard drives just to serve my home folder. And the home folder is it's large. The home partition is large as two hard drives are large. Dale Anderson says, remember, a physical volume can be just a disk partition, so there can be multiple physical volumes on a disk drive. Yes, that is absolutely correct, but it is up to you how you will design the red ones, the physical volumes. If you have a reason to create two red ones on a single hard drives, two physical volumes, then be my guest, go ahead and design it this way. One of the things that comes on top of my mind is if you have, let's say that you have three hard drives. This may be a little bit stupid, but let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. You have hard drive 1, you have hard drive 2, and you have hard drive 3. Okay, so the scenario that I'm drawing is a little bit stupid, but it will tell you, it will give you a little bit of heads up on the possibilities of the architecture that you can architect, right? So you can make a physical volume across the entirety of the hard drive 1 and 3, okay? So physical volume 4, physical volume 1, and then we will create physical volume 2 and physical volume 3, and then we will take volume groups, and then we will create a volume group here and a volume group here, and then we will create a partition here, and then we will create a partition here, but we cannot extend it beyond the volume group size. and then we'll create another partition here. And this is our design for whatever reason that we have done this. Vancha March says, yo, nice work with this series. Always around my bedtime, but working through them in my own time. Okay, good stuff. It's around my bedtime as well. It's almost 10 o'clock. So we are about to finish now with some questionnaire. Guided exercises. Let's go ahead. On Linux systems, where are the files for the group bootloader stored? Your turn, guys. Where are the files for the grub bootloader stored on the Linux file system? You need to be more interactive now. No sleeping. We will be done very, very soon. Just answer 8 questions and we're done. Dale Anderson and Zoran and Pendragonian. I need answers. I can talk with myself for a while, but there is no point of me answering these questions because Zoran asks, are the files for the group bootloader stored in the first 1024 kilobytes? Absolutely no. I would say no. There have been plenty of times where I have been wrong in the previous lessons. Pendragonian says grub directory under boot directory. This is what I would answer as well, and I will consider Pendragonian to be correct on this one. Where should the boot partition end to ensure that the PC will always be able to load the kernel? This is more regarding older systems, but the question is here to be answered, the way the lesson has taught us. So where should the boot partition end to ensure that the PC will always be able to load the kernel? Come on. Zoran says, now that's the first 1024 kilobytes in the MBR. And once again, it's not correct. Pendragonian, save Zoran. Pendragonian, save Zoran, unless Zoran finds a better answer. Okay, so the correct answer is the boot partition. I'm trying to talk slow motion so that you can answer before me, maybe? The idea is right, the number is wrong. There we go, Alexei saves the day. Okay, Zoran, Pendragonian says the first 1024 cylinders and translated to megabytes. Zoran, no. The first 124 cylinders on a hard drive is correct, but translated to megabytes, give it a rough number. It doesn't have to be completely correct. Give it a rough number in gigabytes. So the boot partition needs to fit in the first how many gigabytes? If Pendragonian is answering my question about gigabytes, then it's a little bit off. I am asking in gigabytes. Okay. Alexei is teaching us something that I wasn't aware of. So the example above has explained a hard drive design which would put the first 1024 cylinders inside of the first half a gigabyte. Yeah, so first 500 something megabytes. Okay. Vancha is trying to fit in at the end of the lesson, at the end of the stream. Thank you for participating. Where is the EFI partition usually mounted? This sounds like a tricky question maybe, but it's not that hard. Where is the EFI partition usually mounted? Give it a guess. Give it a guess. It's not hard. It was on my screen a couple of times. Zoran for the win. Okay. We can go ahead on the fourth one after Zoran's first victory. When manually mounting a file system, under which directory Alexei says the correct answer is not where Dart has it mounted. Yeah. Okay, so when manually mounting a file system, under which directory should it usually be mounted? Okay, so this is mostly a recommendation, right? So you can mount whatever you want, wherever you want, and nobody can stop you. But there is some like design guideline to keep it neat and clean, and it will be required for a correct answer at the final exam that some of you, especially me, will take. Under which directory should you be mounting a file system? Pendragonian and Del Anderson and Vancha all correct pretty much at the same time, except Zoran. Zoran missed it a little bit. Zoran, you will not mount a USB stick under boot. Most definitely. So the correct answer is /mnt. As I said, you can mount wherever you want, but this is by design and like a recommendation. Exploration exercises. We have 4 more and then we can go to the actual answers. What is the smallest unit inside of a volume group? Now, to be honest, I have actually forgot the name of this because today was the first time that I have read the name of that thing. Zoran says the question was a bit strange. To me, it wasn't strange, but this one is this one requires a good memory. So what is the smallest unit inside of a volume group? Zoran says 4 megabytes. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I forgot. I can write it down that Zoran said 4 megabytes and then see below what the correct answer is. Vancha says, all right, I am way out of my league here. Thanks again. We'll rewatch. Have a good night. Okay, good night to you, Vancha. And thank you for watching the video on demand. Anyone else besides Zoran with remembering what the smallest unit inside of a volume group is? This question may be actually asking us to answer the size or the name of the unit. I'm not actually sure because this small unit has a special name. So it may be that the question, okay, Dale Anderson says physical extent. Yes, so I think physical extent is the correct answer and not 4 megabytes. It may be 4 megabytes that small physical extent is, but what this question is asking for, I think, is what Dale Anderson has replied. That is my understanding of this question. Yeah. I agree with Dale Anderson that the question is asking for the name. It could be the size, but the word what kind of tells us that it is a name, right? We will see. We will see in the answers below. How is the size of a logical volume defined? Okay, so this is related. How is the size of a logical volume defined? No answers. Okay, I'm gonna answer this one the best I can remember, but if the answer to this question was logical extent, the small one, then how is the size of a logical volume defined is by, adding more logical extents. Dale Anderson says by the number of physical extents. Yeah, I would say the same. We were just not sure if the name is physical extent or logical extent. But yeah, there is a lot of terms to be remembered here. I have very little practice with logical volume management because in most of my installations previously I would just use literal physical partitions, and then at some point I just switched to Butterfly system, and it's virtual partitions, right? Virtual volumes of the Butterfly system. When I did logical volume management, that was usually when I was making servers. Usually it was only Debian. And when you make these logical volumes in Debian, you are not required to know all of these technical details because the Debian installer helps you a lot to build logical volume management without the need for you to know all of the tiny names and details and how things work under the hood. It's a text user interface kind of it's not graphical, but it kind of is. It gives you, you just move with the arrows and click, build this on top of that. It looks like Lego. It's fairly easy to handle with Debian installer. It makes you, it leaves you not aware of all of the intricacies of the guts of how things work. when you go through the Debian installer. It's that easy. Alexei is doing a joke. Okay. On a disk formatted with MBR partitioning scheme, which is the ID of the FE system partition? Okay, I really don't expect anyone to remember this, but feel free to try. Give me a thumbs down if you cannot remember the ID of the FE file system partition, because I don't think this is something that, you know, it is too much data, in my opinion. If you remember it, good for you, but usually you will not. Zoran is asking, is it 01x? I'm not sure what you mean, but I think the answer is yes to the question. Yeah, it's a hex number. But okay, if you can't remember, Alexei agrees with me that it's not that useful. Yeah, it is a hex number, but in most partitioning software, you will just choose FE, and it will mark it properly. You don't need to remember the hex number. But yeah, it is a hex number. Besides swap partitions, how can you quickly increase swap space on a Linux system? This is the easiest question so far. Alexei, actually, it may be useful to know the answer to this question for the actual test, because on the test you will have A, B, C, and D answers, and it is enough that you are aware, in my opinion, that it is a hex number, because most probably the one of the ABCDs will be a hex number, so you will know which one to click, right? Dale Anderson says swap file, Zoran says swap file, and we are done. Good enough. So we have learned a lot of things. Shall we read this? Let's go ahead and read it quickly. In this lesson, we have learned about partitioning, which directories are usually kept in separate partitions and why this is done. Also, we discussed an overview of logical volume management and how it can offer a more flexible way to allocate your data and disk space compared to traditional partitioning. The following files, terms, and utilities have been discussed: Linux root file system, standard location for variable data, standard parent directory for home, standard location for boot, what is FE system partition, swap space, mount points, which are directories, a location where our device will be mounted to, and partition, which are hard drive divisions. Alexei is doing a good joke again. Okay, so the answer for the first question out of 8 on Linux system: where are the files for the grub loader stored? Under boot grub. So that was answered correctly by Pendragonian. Okay, Pendragonian answered grub directory under boot. Where should the boot partition end to ensure that a PC is always be able to load the kernel? Before this cylinder, and once again it was Pendragonian who answered this one first. Okay. Where is the FE partition usually mounted? Under /boot/FE. This is what Zoran has answered first. when manually mounting a file system, under which directory it usually should be mounted. This is under /monito, and Zoran Pendragonian and Del Anderson have both, three of you have answered at the same time. What is the smallest unit inside of a volume group? And indeed, it is a name. Volume groups are subdivided into extents. Okay, so is it logical extent or a physical extent? No, it is just an extent. How is the size of a volume, logical volume, defined? And Dale said by the number of extents. And the correct answer is by the size of the physical extents multiplied by the number of extents. Okay, so the extents can be larger or smaller. This is not something that we have been paying attention to, but it may be useful to store this information somewhere in the back of the head, because most surely when you will be building your first server with logical volume management, either you will do it blindly with the help of Debian installer, or you will do it by the help of the internet with some quick manuals, right? And then you will remember that the size of the physical extent multiplied by the number of extents on the volume. On a disk formatted with the MBR partitioning scheme, which is the ID of the FE system partition, and indeed it is a hex number. And I just noticed that the hex number is F, like FE. So this is kind of easy to remember, actually. FE partition is located at the hex ID FE, but without the third letter. I mean, I can remember it this way. Besides swap partition, we can also use swap files. Good enough. And we're done. So, what are we going to do? We have did good. A little bit of horse riding, right? Mounting the file systems. That was kind of fun. Unexpected fun, to be honest, because I didn't really think that people will not understand what mounting is. But, horse riding is good. Trees are good. Alexei agrees with me that this was a relatively easy one, yeah. In my opinion, this was a lot easier than the systemd lesson. So expect more difficulty in the future. More difficulty not just from this, but also from systemd. Linux is easy when you use Ubuntu and just click next, and install snaps or flatpaks. Not so easy when you want to understand how the engine works. But also it takes a little bit of a practice, right? Practice makes perfect. For me as well. I'm doing these live sessions. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm doing this primarily because of me. I want to earn more points in the company where I am working. And one of the ways I can do this is by collecting some useful certificates. So there is no guarantee that I will get a better pay, but there may be a better opportunity for me when I will know more of the guts of the Linux, and I may be able to squeeze myself into some more roles in the company where I work, and that will give me more money, right? So from that perspective, I am definitely doing this among everything else for myself, partially for my YouTube channel because I think it's really fun, partially for you guys because I can see that at least 10 of you are having constant fun with this. So all things considered, I am also very, very, very appreciative of Master Shilin because I'm learning quite a lot from him. I must say this. So thank you very much, sir. Alexei says LVM is cool though, supports snapshots. Resizing volumes is a breeze. Can even live migrate a running system to another disk. I actually didn't know that you can migrate to another disk live. That is interesting information. I did know about snapshots and resizing, did not know about live migration. We're close to the end. Give me something in chat. Everyone who is in chat, even those of you who are just lurking, just give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up for the lurk. Give me a like on this video. I don't know. Maybe participate in my Patreon because I have a new page there. Here's the link to my Patreon if anyone is feeling generous. If you are feeling a bit less generous, maybe you can join my YouTube channel. At this point, both joining the Patreon at the lowest tier is €1, and both joining my YouTube membership is also €1, and both of them will give you access to my lessons as video on demands because I live stream to YouTube and then this stays on YouTube for a week and then I put it only for members and then I also upload it for Patreon members as well. So the video on demand is available for, you know, €1 thanks, €1 thanks for my efforts on both of these places. You can watch them either here or there. It is your choice. Bad Wolf Cowboy, welcome in. Thank you for speaking in chat. I am new to your channel. I jumped on and discovered you. Immediately open my LPIC PDF to follow along. Okay, good. I missed out a lot though. We are Bad Wolf Cowboy. We are now at the 4th lesson, but I suppose you have already realized that by scrolling through the PDF. So the website fonts are amazing. Which website fonts are you talking about, Pendragonian? My website? The blue one? Yeah, Bad Wolf Cowboy, if you feel super appreciative, you can join my channel for like €1 depending on which country you're in, and just as well you can join my Patreon for also €1 and you will get access to the previous lessons that you have missed so you can catch up. And if you don't feel like supporting my effort is worth it anymore after catching up with the lessons, feel free to unsubscribe after paying for the first month and going through the previous lessons, right? Because you will be able to continue following along completely for free because all of these streams are free while I'm doing them and they stay for free for a week. So I want the largest amount of people to be able to follow along for free. And the only reason I put the old one behind the paywall is simply because I want to encourage people to express their thanks. And I don't really ask for too much money because most of you guys can catch up in a matter of 1 month, which will cost you just €1. So I think that is really, really fair. And I do get some of the thanks back in return. And if you continue feeling like you want to support whatever I do on this channel, then feel free to stay on your tier for €1 or a bigger tier. I have like 5 tiers from thanks people to a really, let's say, rich people who are able to support a lot more than I do. I don't really expect anyone to join my highest tier, but I have just given them as an option, right? So the first one is €1. Yeah, okay. On Patreon, I will be probably uploading another video like today, but as soon as you join, you will already have access to 3 videos, right? Let me just check how many of them do I have. Let's go ahead and switch here. Okay. So my page, right? My page. Let's refresh. Let's refresh. Where is my videos, right? Okay. So when you join library. Okay. Okay. So the first thing you will see without joining the Patreon, you will see my first post. So that one is public. It's just an announcement. And once you join, you will get the first 3 lessons. And the 4th one I will upload today. I think the one we are doing right now, that's the 4th one. So the 4th one I will upload today. Feel free to ignore this. This is a little bit stupid. The only reason I enable this is for people who for some reason want to purchase my videos. Okay, purchase in order to own them without being subscribed. But the reason why each one is €3 is because Patreon does not allow me to set a smaller price for a single video. It is a stupid thing from Patreon, but I have just done it as an option. When you join my membership in the lowest tier, that is €1, you will already have access to all of my videos just by joining, okay? Until you unjoin. When you unjoin, you will no longer have access, but in theory, you can purchase them individually. What I have done as well is I have made a collection, and I imagine when I will have like 30 videos, then in that scenario there may be some people who will be willing to purchase the entire collection of videos without subscribing to my Patreon. So for this amount, they will keep all of the videos forever. I don't know if that's a sensible thing to do, but I'm just setting many different options, so whoever prefers whatever. So this is Let's Learn Linux, this is collection. Roughly 23 lessons are planned. We will see when we reach the end. I'm not entirely sure if there will be 23. There may be some more, depending on the difficulty of the later ones, right? So I may need to split some into multiple parts if they become too difficult. So for now, this collection, in theory, you can purchase it right now, and you will be charged 50 for 3 videos, but then you will just get the other ones for free as they join the collection. So it is something that I did the other day. Is the visionary membership on Patreon that will let me see your lessons? Yes, that is correct. When you go to my page, let me copy this and not log in, new in private window. So now I am a guest. Okay. So now I am a guest. And see here, visionary, €1 a month, video tutorials and lessons, and your name listed in my all of my videos, and credits. I have regular videos that I publish, a couple of them every week, right? So your name will be listed there, and you will get access to my tutorials and lessons. Basically, the Linux lessons, right? The ones that we are doing right now. All of the other ones also include these lessons, but you will get some extra perks like joining me in a monthly video call, some behind the scenes content, exclusive shout out at the end of the video. This is by voice, some voting power. I just had to put more of the stuff to give people a reason to pay more money. So some patrons, let's say some patrons really have a lot of money and they are willing to support people who they appreciate a lot. So in this manner, I'm not really asking for money. I'm just giving options to like rich people who are willing to invest into people like me. Okay, so I'm giving a more and more and more and more reasons to pick higher tiers, but the first one for €1 is the most valuable one, which is counterproductive because the highest tier should be the most valuable one, but I don't want it to be. I want the cheapest one to offer the most value, and the rest of them are just like a cherry on top, nothing special. What is the difference between joining on YouTube versus buying the Visionary membership on Patreon? There is no difference. The only difference, can you see Pendragonian in chat? He has a green name and a gray hat. That is the difference. So if you join on YouTube, then you will get a hat, and you will get then you will get your name different color in chat. You will be able to post some icons in chat. This is specific to YouTube, right? But you will get access to my videos on both of the places, right? Also, what you will get if you join via YouTube is, let me show you YouTube. Also, what you will get if you join via YouTube is a lot of these live streams. So you can see which ones are live lessons. These are the most valuable content that I have. So that one is on Patreon. These other live streams, I unlist them from public because they are not that interesting to be hanging on my regular channels. So I just hide them as members only, because what these live streams are, I usually just randomly pop up on a live stream because I decide to show to people how to install a new distribution, and let's check out DeepSeek AI and how it works. This is what crashed my PC last time because it ate all my RAM in the middle of the stream, and that was kind of funny. So these are like unprofessional streams in which I fool around with people in chat, okay? Similar to what we are doing right now. And people tend to pick topics. Sometimes I pick a topic like DeepSeek. Sometimes I just do a just chatting. So these are like video on demands from a not that important live streams. So if you have missed the public live stream, you may or may not be inclined to watch my past live streams. I don't consider them very important for for watching after they are finished, because for example DeepSeek AI live stream I have, so it was 44 minutes long. Okay, it was a short stream. However, what I did with this live stream, I have cut out all of the problems that I have had with the stream, and everything that was not related to the actual DeepSeek AI. And then I published a separate video, which is public right now, and it is 22 minutes long. So it is half the length of the actual stream, because only the most important stuff is prepared for my channel, right? So this is like a more professional video editing for your shorter viewing pleasure, if I can put it this way. So we have the same thing as live stream, but it's double in length, and you can see how I had a problem with my stream and how I was fixing my computer and all that stuff. Also, in the live videos, we have dev1 Linux installation. We were playing around with dev1, we were playing around with systemvinit, sysvinit, and stuff like that. But it is all very lean, if that's a good word for it, because most of the time I just spend time in chat talking to people. So this particular stream was 2.5 hours long, and we were playing with the sysvinit init daemon, but you can't really put 2.5 hours lean content in which I talk a lot about different stuff as a YouTube video, because most people just tend to watch up until maybe 20 minutes, right? Dale Anderson says, from our search of DeepSeek today, it sounds like DeepSeek should be abbreviated as... yeah, I'm not sure what you mean. Bad Wolf Cowboy, oh, okay. I was curious because there is a slight price difference between Patreon and YouTube membership. I just want to make sure the money is going directly to you instead of whatever administrator fees. I think YouTube is taking like 30% of what you pay, and Patreon, I have no idea what it is taking, but it could be similar. Let's check. How much does Patreon take? How much cut does Patreon take? Patreon charges creators a platform fee that varies depending on the plan they choose. For the Pro plan, Patreon takes 8%. I'm pretty sure that I'm on a Pro plan, so I guess I would get more of your money if you go to Patreon compared to YouTube. So if you didn't choose yet, and if the amount that the system is asking from you, it is probably giving you an option in your own currency and not euros, because I have set it to €1, but they change it to whatever your currency is. So if you still haven't subscribed, I would probably get a little bit more if you go to Patreon. Either way, I am super grateful for wherever you go. Also, don't join from a mobile device. Join from a web browser, because if you use the Patreon application on your phone, then Google and Apple will charge you. Oh, it's 1.5 for Patreon. Are you accessing Patreon from your phone application, from your Patreon application on the phone? I just need to know this because I don't have experience. Because I am absolutely sure that if you come with a Patreon application, then Apple and Google will charge you some extra money. And then Patreon will charge me some money. And then I will get like what remains. But if you're joining from a browser, okay. So if it is from a browser, then I suppose I will get more if you join via Patreon. And not only because they take less cut, but for some reason they are asking 1.5 from you. But this is not what I have set. I have literally set €1. And why did Patreon decide that this is $1.5? Yeah, it doesn't matter which browser. All that matters is that you are not using the Patreon application from an app store, because Google Play Store and Apple App Store are adding additional price overhead to the the thing becomes more expensive than it would be via web browser for you, not for me, for you. Yeah, but I suspect that if you join via YouTube, then I will get like 70 cents. If you join via Patreon, then I will get $1.15, I suppose. So in your case, from USA, I would get actually a lot more from Patreon, but partially because you will be charged more. So take it as you will. I'm pretty new to Patreon. I have literally enabled it a couple of days ago. I have had YouTube membership for like a month since this stream series has started, and I have had a coffee page for the longest of times. But on Coffee, I cannot upload videos, so Coffee is more like a tip jar. On Coffee, I actually get the most money because they don't charge me anything. But equally, I cannot put any meaningful content on Coffee. So you can for this scenario, you can disregard Coffee because of their technical limitations. What I can upload there. So the Patreon thinks that I have one member. This is me logged in as a creator, and I have no idea how to see this. Let's go to membership. So 1 out of 100 members is joined. I'm going to do this off screen, not to show any personal data, just to check what it says. Audience. Bad Wolf. Okay, I can see your name and your email, but I will not show this on the stream. I will not show this on stream, but I can see that you have joined the free tier, and I suppose that I suppose that it will refresh soon. Give me just a second. I need to open the door. Somebody is ringing the door. Okay, so ghosts are ringing my door. Literally, the doorbell rang and there is nobody at the door. Maybe someone was impatient, but it's 10 p.m. here, so I have no idea who would be ringing at this time. Okay, this I can show. This I can show. So 2 hours ago, Anna became a member of Visionary, and 19 minutes ago, Aaron joined as a free member. This is what I have so far. Alrighty, what did I miss in the chat? Bad Wolf said thank you, and thank you very much. And Sherry M6, do I need to read the whole of your name? Basically, Sherry is giving us a couple of icons. Couple of icons is nice. Thank you for the icons in chat. Bad Wolf Cowboy Arcade. I did a little research. Patreon would charge me extra because of conversation fees, conversion fees from USD to euros. Interesting. I don't think I have the power to do anything about that. I mean, if I could, I would take it on myself. If I could, I would take it on myself and offer you. Yeah, I understood its conversion. Yeah. If I could, I would make it, that you can pay in United States dollars so that I would get dollars and then I would convert them myself. I'm perfectly fine with that. So I'm just clicking through options and searching if I can do anything about that, but I'm not seeing anything regarding currency. No, Patreon never asked me which currency am I using. It automatically defaulted to euros as soon as I gave it my address. But yeah, go ahead and choose whatever feels better for you. You will get the same access more or less to both sides, except some hats in the chat. If that's your jam, then do the YouTube thing. Alrighty. Any more questions? There is only 8 of you remaining in chat, and this is what always happens when the stream is ending. People are starting to leave. And welcome, Bad Wolf Cowboy, to Visionaries. Now you're green and with the gray hat. And in a month, your hat color will change. Thank you very much, sir. Sherry and Del Anderson. Any one of you guys still here, maybe? Pendragonian. Alexei, Zoran. I'm just scrolling. Vancha, scrolling back through the chat to see who was on the stream today and active in chat. It was like 6 of you or 7 who were active in chat, around 13 with the rest of you lurking. Uncle Bonehead was here in the beginning, of course, and Pendragonian with a nice and generous sticker. Thank you very much once again, Pendragonian, for the amazing orange sticker. Sismon was in the chat in the beginning. Just a guy was in the chat who also followed, and Vasrias. So there we go. It was like 10 of you in chat actually. Okie dokie. Are we cutting the stream, right? Unless there is like more things to discuss. I can hop on a random stream any day basically, especially when I'm not doing the taxi rides with my family. So we can do the random chat, right? Random stuff. Okay, I guess I'm gonna be closing the shop for now. We have done like roughly 3 hours or maybe 2.5 hours of active classroom, and a little bit in the beginning was the chat, a little bit chat of the at the end. Dale Anderson says thanks for the deep dive patience, and thank you for mounting your horse, Dale Anderson. That was kind of fun. And bye bye, says Dale Anderson. Have a good night from Bad Wolf Cowboy. Thank you very much, and have a good night to every one of you who is going to sleep. Have a good evening to the America guys. And yeah, see you in the next video. And if you're interested in some OpenBSD shenanigans, maybe you can check out my video that I have published like roughly 5 hours ago. That one was kind of fun. And yeah, see you next week, Alexei, and the rest of the